All right, so we've just finished round one of the AFL season for 2018, and I'm just going to give a rundown of my thoughts on each of the games. Talk about a couple of talking points that come out of last weekends of football. So first of all, it's just round one. It's a sort of a double-edged sword. It's early on in the season. A lot of teams that lost can make up their loss in further rounds. Teams like Adelaide and West Coast and Melbourne. Um, these narrow games could be the difference of being fifth or fourth on the ladder, making the finals, as West Coast and Melbourne sort of vied for eighth and ninth last year. So let's talk about the games. The quality of the matches overall has improved in the JLT series. That's no big surprise. These games actually mean something now, so that's quite good. A lot of the teams were kicking around, 80, 90, 100 points. I think we're going to, have a good year of football this year. Carlton in particular, kicking 5 goals straight against Richmond. We can talk about how part of it was umpire assisted, but, they played up until probably about 5 minutes to the fourth quarter, and then it's kind of, died away a little bit. But I don't think it was a case of Melbourne just giving up. Carlton giving up. I think it's more like Richmond just kind of stepping up in the fourth quarter. Dusty kicking a captain's goal, and ever since that happened, Carlton just couldn't keep up at all. Essendon and Crows games, I think it was an okay showing from both teams. Essendon just did the same sort of thing. They just managed to step it up, and the Crows just sort of died a lot more in the fourth quarter than Carlton did against Richmond. But Crows really need to step it up if they're going to be competitive for next week against Richmond. Ports and Dockers, I think like the Dockers was a fairly average game on them. And Port played really well, especially the new recruits they got over the summer. The Melbourne and Geelong game, that was entertaining. People were talking about the two talking points were Ablett getting 39 possessions and Max Gawn's miss right at the end. I'll just cover those. I'll come back to that in a second. Sydney and West Coast was, again, a highly entertaining game. It's just more... I do want to touch on Buddy's 8 goals just quickly. Again, I'll come back to that in a second. Hawthorn and Collingwood, I think, from what I saw, especially the other part of the game, it was more or less even. Once Hawthorn got on top, though, that was it, man. They just ran away. Saints and Lions, there was nothing special. Well, at least I didn't think so. There's highlights from both teams as well. I saw like Charlie Cameron, my mate Charlie there, got a couple of good goals. It's good to see him sort of lift up the Lions a little bit, because the Lions were pathetic last year. And they weren't great in the JLT series either. The North Melbourne Gold Coast game, I'm just going to largely sort of sidestep. It was just basically a washout. It's just a bad game of football. I'm not sure if it was the conditions, because that was just, it was a swimming pool. Or if they were just, bad skills from each team. I probably think I'd like a combination of both. And the Bulldogs and GWS, I mean, like, the Bulldogs were just fucking hammered. There's just no other word for it. Let's talk about Buddy's 8 goals. It's a good effort. I'm not going to take that away from him. I'm not going to take that away from Sydney. They won. They deserve the win. But I do think they need to find some more diversity in their forward line. They just can't rely on Buddy in his 8 goals. If you can do that every day game, good on them. Honestly, good on them. But it's not that they don't have the ability to. It's just being like a one-player, like forward line, there's going to be problems. They're really going to sort of like struggle if they can't get somebody else start kicking a bag of goals for them as well. But good on them. I honestly think they're like a really, really strong side. It's absolutely incredible. Tom Mitchell getting 54 possessions against Collingwood. I mean, like, is this just because he's, a fucking great player? And he is. Or is it just Collingwood's fucking terrible? Because that's just unacceptable. 54 is just insane, especially when we talk about, like, getting 25 to 30 possessions a game is having like an excellent game, generally speaking. But 54, I mean, that's got to be like structural issues in Collingwood. People have been talking about it in the media, but it's just, Jesus Christ, 54 is just nuts. So good on Tom Mitchell for that. I think he's definitely got to get like 3 points in Brownlows for his efforts. So the Adelaide's first game, first of all, it's important to point out that Dangerfield wasn't playing. Dangerfield is the Brownlow medalist. And next week, I do think it'd be interesting to see if Ablett, Selwood, and Dangerfield will play. I think that's what Geelong fans are waiting for. That's what AFL fans are just kind of curious about how that goes. The win wasn't convincing, I will say that. I do think that with Max Gawn missing, right about like 18 seconds to go, I think he marked it, and it was a bad miss. But about a minute before, Clayton Oliver sort of did the same thing. He could have, I think he could have drawn even, or maybe even got like 1 or 2 points ahead if he kicked a goal, but he didn't. And Max Gawn's just kind of basically taking the rap for it. I mean, him like sort of like grabbing his head, like cradling, man, he was gutted, absolutely gutted. In my previous video, I said that I don't think Adela's going to do too well, and well, apparently he's proven me wrong. There we go. He's probably going to get Brownlow votes for that effort as well. He was good. Obviously, 39 disposals, as I just said with Tom Mitchell's thing. That was 25 to 30, a really good game. 39. Again, it's just an amazing effort. My apologies, I was wrong. Over the weekend as well, starting with the Carlton Richmond game, basically straight away, people have been talking about the umpires. There was 5 50-metre penalties given to Carlton, and the AFL has since come out and said that 2 weren't there, and another one was a marginal sort of call. It's always going to be this battle. I mean, like, what do you want? Do you want like stop-start football? Do you want like free-flowing? You want to like see guys running around, like taking on the game, or do you want the umpires blowing whistles every like 2 or 3 minutes? You can't have both, and this is what AFL fans sort of just aren't really like grasping at the moment. Like me included, don't get me wrong, you always want to see your team get the, calls that swing the game in your favour. There's also a questionable free kick, well, at least 2 calls that went against Carlton with Daisy Thomas. He got a really awkward mark. The replay showed clearly marked it, and the umpires. So he marked it. It was like real low on the ground, and got called a play on. I think it resulted in turnover. I could be wrong. The other one was like a real dodgy sort of weird hand ball where he just like basically punched it, and that was it. Given away as a throw. The umpire came out, I think it's in 3/4 time, said that basically he has to call it how he sees it, and I think that's pretty much basically, I can't see how that's going to happen unless you have some sort of auto umpire, who sort of gives away every sort of slight infraction, every slight deviation from the rules. I really do like the human element, and like the fact that, the umpires do make bad calls and make wrong calls in games. I do think that's a big part of the game, and we need that in the game. There's also Collingwood fans sort of kicking up a stink about Tom Langdon's free kick where he took out Jack Constance's legs. That's like a no-brainer for me. Basically, he just came barrel rolling, took out, basically like shinned him. I don't get it. He could have pinned his legs down and like taken out his leg, and we could have ended up with like a Nathan Brown sort of situation, if you remember that. Where he just got his leg fucking shattered, like his knee injury. It's a free kick, man, every single day of the week. I don't care who you are. You can't do that. Fucking Collingwood fans. Richard Douglas's suspension as well was it was a hard hit on Zach Merritt and took Merritt out of the game. To me, it looked like shoulder. I'm a Crows fan. I don't want to see him suspended. Obviously, he's definitely deserves his top spot in the first side. But I know for me there wasn't much in it. He was gone for the ball. It was unfortunate. He was bleeding from the mouth, so I do understand why it was reported. Rich Douglas has also challenged the suspension. Those we find out tonight. It's Tuesday, about 12:30 at the moment. We'll see how that goes. If that's just the AFL collecting another $10,000. I think the only other time anyone's challenged it was is it Sam Gray, Robbie Gray, one of the Greys from Port Adelaide. Basically cops the $10,000 fine because he failed. He failed in his attempt to get his suspension overturned. And my thoughts about that were like, are they only going to do it with like the big name players? Now Richard Douglas isn't quite a big name player. If it was like Rory Sloane or something, like $10,000 every single time he gets looked at, or like you can't, like every team would for their big players, Ablett, Selwood, Dangerfield. I'm trying to think of someone from the Gold Coast, but I can't because it would suck. For the Bulldogs had like Bontempelli, again 2,000. Basically, all the big name players were there to clubs would shell out $10,000 in a hope of getting them available for the next round. It's just not even. It's like $10,000. Dangerfield's copper fight, $10,000. Selwood's out for 3 games for like punching someone. It's just absolutely no review. But Rich Douglas is sort of interesting. He's not quite on that level. He's not an elite player. We'll see how this sort of turns out during the week. Personally, I think the AFL's just revenue raising. I don't think. I don't think he's going to play next weekend. I hope he does, but I really don't think he'll be in the lineup for the Richmond game. I do want to talk about a couple of injuries as well. First, Tom Liberatore, he's out for the season. Done his knee. It sucks at the Western Bulldogs. Their game wasn't great at all. He was knocked out in the first quarter. His knee was just done. You just saw him sort of limp off over the boundary line, and you just knew he wasn't getting up, and we're not going to see him again. It kind of sucks for them. The Bulldogs had a really disappointing year last year, especially on the back of their premiership. It was just a fall from grace. But the more interesting one is Paddy Ryder. He's 4 to 6 weeks out with an Achilles injury. I think Port really have a challenge or an opportunity, shall we say, to sort of develop some of the other guys in the ruck. Now, Paddy Ryder's probably one of the top 3 ruckmen in the competition. For the rest of their Port Dockers game, I saw Westhoff a lot in the ruck, and he's a smaller guy. Paddy Ryder is a big dude, just solid motherfucker. Westhoff's just a tall, lanky, sort of like he just can't like impose himself as physically as Paddy Ryder can. Names that were thrown around were Charlie Dixon in the ruck. It would be interesting. Now that they've obviously shown like that diversity in their forward line, he doesn't need to be down there as much. I think it's going to be a real good test, especially playing Sydney at Sydney. See how they go. I think that will shut up like Port power fans when we're this weekend. Are they pretenders? Are they contenders? I think that's going to be the match of the round, just easily. I can't wait to see it. I'll just quickly run through the upcoming round as well. So I'm just on Sportsbet here, just having a look at the odds and things like that. And Adelaide, for some reason, is favourite against Richmond. That's not great odds, but I know that we've got a couple of our guys back, but I can't see it. They need to really step up their game to even be competitive. I think Richmond all the way in this one. But it'll be interesting to see how Richmond travel interstate as well. So North Melbourne versus St Kilda. St Kilda, yeah, it's probably going to be a complete non-affair. They just, like, both teams aren't playing good football at the moment. I know St Kilda won, but it wasn't a convincing sort of win by them. Carlton, they definitely stepped up a bit. They were competitive against Richmond, and I don't think anyone really expected that. I think they should win comfortably against Gold Coast. Collingwood and GWS, I think it's going to be again a landslide. I think Collingwood suck. I hope their midfield sort of has a look at itself. I hope the coaching team has a look at what they can do differently to become a little bit more competitive. But honestly, I think it's just going to be a whitewash again. Melbourne should just dominate Brisbane. Essendon should beat Fremantle. But, it is over in the West, so we shall see. But I think it should be a fairly easy win for Essendon there. Western Bulldogs against West Coast. Western Bulldogs are the favourites. Are you out of your mind? I just think the Western Bulldogs strike me as a lazy team. They're just sort of coasting for the last year and 3 weeks or whatever, how long the JLT's gone on for. But I've just seen nothing really special. And now with Liberatore, I know he's not their best player, but he's definitely going to hurt their chances of winning consistently as well. Sydney versus Port Adelaide. I think Sydney are going to win. But as I said, this is Port Adelaide's chance to put up or shut up, basically. And for my money, this is definitely going to be the match of the round. I think Sydney's going to win, but I think it's going to be a lot closer. I was really impressed with their new recruits in Port Adelaide. And even the midfield, from what I saw, did a really good job on the weekend against Fremantle. And Geelong versus Hawthorn, I think this is going to be one of those games where you just got to have to watch it. To see Selwood, Danger, and Ablett. I think this is going to be a really, really good game to watch as well. So yeah, there you are. That's basically the talking points from round one and my thoughts on the upcoming round. Let us know what you think. And fuck Collingwood.